I'm here. I am here. Why? Because my God, you see me trying to push them dentures up, right? Woke me up this morning and said, Rise, Edwina. There's someone I want you to be of service to. Therefore, rise so you can touch one more person to be set free and to give hope to others. From recovery, emerge empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. For that, we should, because he told you to rise this morning, the honor, the praise, the glory, the hallelujah, the worship, and most importantly, the acknowledgement that he is. The trash man is outside making all kinds of noise. He didn't wake me up this morning. I don't have a mate, so they didn't wake me up this morning. I don't have any grandchildren here, so they didn't wake me up this morning. So who touched me with the gift of life? My Creator. And I want to thank him, honor him, and obey him as a faithful and trusted servant. So, welcome to the free conversation with Edwina B. Y'all, Free to Hope. And I am known as Miss Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. Now, I am doing my best, Emma, to keep these dentures in because I waited too late to put them in for the suction to take place. So if you see them drop it like it's hot. I'm going to either take them out or push them back in. All right. So let's get to our topic this morning. So many of you already know that the Free to Hope stands for From Recovery, Emerge Empower, to give hope to others. The acronym for Help Others Prosper Equally. And you also should know that my upcoming Master Class is scheduled for Thursday evening, June the 20th from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. in person and Zoom, as well as Saturday, June the 22nd from 10 to 11:30 a.m. And the theme, of course, is I'm so tired of being broken and broke. Are you? Are you? If you have become aware that you are broken and broke, what you going to do about it? What you going to do about it? Are you going to stay broken and broke? Or do you want to learn and apply spiritual tools and resources that will give you an unlimited amount of breakthroughs? Which is your choice? And that's why my master class focuses on a deeper level, what it means to be so tired of being broken and broke. I did agree to have another free seminar at the end or maybe before my master class, and I will post that tomorrow once I pick a date. All right. So let's get to our topic for today, and let me give you an update. All right. So the update is I'm still suffering with my shoulder injury. I do go to the doctor on Wednesday, the surgeon, to determine what needs to be done to fix this torn, no longer a tear, but torn, right, ligament in my shoulder. Okay. And as a result, I have been dealing with the pain without any narcotics. Y'all see that? Narcotics. I take ibuprofen, and then I take Tylenol, then I take ibuprofen, then I take Tylenol. So that's how I am dealing with the pain. And so because it is torn, there is a separation, whereas I cannot lift my arm forward nor to the side. But guess what? I can go back there and take care of business. I told you I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Pops, transparent and authentic. See, you can always find some humor in what you're going through. It's just called an attitude adjustment. So, my other update is that, wait a minute, y'all. Mm, mm, I'm trying, Emma. I'm trying to keep them up there. My other update is that I just want to really shout out to my dear friends, my mentors, my spiritual advisors, AJ Harding and Dr. J. Macklin. Yes, they are the most committed people that I know. AJ has been doing this for years. Dr. J. Macklin has been doing it for over a year, if not more. And I've been doing it for several years, not consistently, but I was consistent in the beginning when it started out with just 30 days and it wound up being 100 and something days. Okay. And so I'm committed to coming on Monday through Friday and sometimes during the day, just to give you an update of what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. And there are times when I will use you, yes, you, as a reference or a checking in point to let you know I'm thinking about doing something. I'm thinking about saying something. And I need you to remind me as I remind myself, Edwina, is it going to feed the spirit or is it going to feed the flesh? That is why I know these spiritual principles, tools, and resources work because of 34 years of practicing them one day at a time. And so, one of the resources that I use is the AA spiritual steps within a spiritual fellowship. So, I do want to shout out my two mentors, spiritual in nature, Dr. J. Macklin, Breakfast with God, and Morning Coffee with AJ Harding. I love you. Keep up the good work. Also, AJ Harding is going to be our special guest along with Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall Long and at our upcoming Narcan distribution celebration at my church, Canaan Baptist Church, on Sunday, June the 30th, right? And so he's going to be performing his latest gospel songs as a rapper, and he will be definitely giving out the word because he is awesome. And so I will put that flyer up too on Sunday, June the 30th at Canaan Baptist Church, the Narcan distribution celebration. Since January, we have distributed Narcan kits to over 12 agencies and on the streets, at conventions, at conferences, right? So that we can help save one more life, right? Narcan is the antidote for overdoses, right? And so if you want to be trained and avail yourself to Narcan kits, contact me, okay? So let's get to the reading today. That was the information I had. Okay. All right. So many of you know I go to my AA meeting every morning, right? And so, let me mention this too. Okay. I will be doing a live Facebook promo for the newly appointed position that I have as program director for Divine Light. Inpatient, intensive outpatient services, and those who need housing while we treat them are available. So we're going to be open Mondays through Saturdays, and go to divine-light.net to read about our programs. But IOP, OP with housing is available for individuals and for couples, okay? Once we provide you the services, once we provide you everything you need for continuum of care, we also want to provide you housing if you need it while you are in treatment with us, okay? So visit Divine Light for their intensive outpatient services as well, okay? Now, let's go to our reading today. All right, again. All right. So, the reading says, now you know this comes from my 12-step reflection reading for June the 3rd. And it says, on a wing in a prayer. And this is from the daily reflection. So please go to aa.org to read all about the program fellowship that I've been a part of for 34 plus years, delivered me from underneath a parked car to be sitting before you here today to help set you free for you to give hope to others. It says, on a wing in a prayer. We then look at step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. This comes from the big book on page 76. Now, let's see what the person in recovery shares, and I will share my experience, strength, and hope as well. Because we're going to dissect this baby. This is the step that separates the men from the boys and the girls from the women. All right. It reads, step 4 and 5 were difficult, but worthwhile. Now I was stuck on step 6, and in despair, I picked up the big book and read this passage. I was outside praying for willingness when I raised my eyes and saw a huge bird rising in the sky. I watched it suddenly give itself up to the powerful air currents of the mountains. Swept along, swooping and soaring, the bird did things seemingly impossible for mortal birds to do. It was an inspiring example of a fallow creature letting go to a power greater than itself. I realized that if the bird took back his will and tried to fly with less trust on its own power alone, it would spoil its apparent free flight. That insight granted me the willingness to pray the 7-step prayer. It's not easy to know God's will in each circumstance. I must search out and be ready for the currents. And that's where prayer and meditation help. Because I am of myself nothing, I ask God to grant me the knowledge of his will and the power and courage to carry it out. Oh, my. Are y'all ready to dissect this baby? Are y'all ready to dissect this baby? Okay, so let me turn this around and listen. I'm going to get this lighting thing, straightened out soon, because I don't know. Y'all hold on for 1 second. Hold on. All right, let me do that. All right, maybe that'll make a difference. All right, let's see. All right, a little bit. Okay. All right. Now, let's dissect this baby, right? It says in the beginning, we then look at step 6. What is step 6? We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. That is the 6th step of the Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step spiritual principles, right? We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So oftentimes I talk about going all the way back to where my ideas, behaviors, attitudes were first formulated. And that was in the 4th step, made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. And so having committed to the concepts and acceptance of step 1, 2, and 3, I can't, he can, and I'll make a decision to let him. I have built the foundation to know that I am in the care of a power greater than myself, who I now choose to call and know as God. And so, in doing my 4th step and going all the way back, I found out a lot that had happened to me, whereas before I thought something was severely, severely wrong with me. And as a result of doing that inventory to the best of my ability, it took me 6 months to write out my assets and my liabilities as it relates to me, right? And once I completed my fourth step, then we went to step 5, where we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, right? And so these spiritual tools, resources, and principles by the Uweeds family, my spiritual revival hour gospel songs, my 19-year affiliation with the church of my choice, Canaan Baptist Church, along with the transformational teachings by Dr. Sonia of P3 Global, the 4-year journal that I kept the first 4 years in my recovery, all helped me to recognize these spiritual tools and resources in order for me to obtain that psychic change, right? And so we know that religion and medical establishments couldn't help with the disease of alcoholism. And it says no human power could have relieved us of our alcoholism, that God could and would if he was sought. So therefore, even though the spiritual principles came from the scriptures, right? Dr. Carl Jung, Dr. Bob, Bill W., and the other committee members came up and believed undoubtedly that it is one alcoholic helping another alcoholic that will change and create that psychic change in that person's mind. Free. When one person shares their experience, their strength, their hope with the now known disease of alcoholism, many people didn't want to accept it over the years, but it has been documented that it is of a spiritual nature. Okay. And so once we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, right? We found out that many of our character defects are camouflaged by other things. For instance, jealousy is camouflaged by insecurity. Insecurity may be camouflaged by low self-esteem. Low self-esteem may be camouflaged by self-abandonment. So we go through all those levels when we do our step 5 in order to get to the exact nature, which we ultimately found out is fear. Fear. Fear is the biggest character defects of all human beings. That's right, because all human beings are ill to some extent. And the bottom line is fear. And so before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, the acronym for fear was F everything and run. Forget everything and run. Life on life terms, I can't deal. F everything and run. However, because life is on life's terms, I learned and applied spiritual principles to give a different meaning for the acronym of fear, and that is face everything and recover. Face everything and be restored. Face everything and rebound. Face everything and rejuvenate. Face everything and, right? Remember. Yes. And so now that we have gotten to the exact nature of our wrongs, we know undoubtedly majority of our character defects, but our God, our creator, knows more about us than we could ever know. And so therefore, when we come to step 6, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you entirely ready to have God of your understanding, right? Remove all these defects of character in his time and in his way. All the step requires is that, are you willing? Are you entirely ready? And so I use the analogy of an onion. Oftentimes when we see a small, medium, bigger onion, oh my gosh, can you imagine all of those layers I'm going to say are character defects? I'm just giving an analogy, right? And so if that beautiful onion looks so nice on the outside and da 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 da, and it has good purpose and It was created for a special contribution to mankind. When I looked and began to peel the layers of that onion, oh my God, that's an awesome, awesome, awesome creation. But it also tells me that each layer of my character defects are raveled within that onion. And so when we take step 6, we are saying to this onion, here, take me, God. Take me, higher power. Whoever you choose to acknowledge is a power greater than you, accept me as I am, which was the topic of Dr. Christopher Allen Bullock. Come as you are. And he said it didn't necessarily mean by attire. It means come as you are. Stinking, rotten, right? Defected, right? Come as you are and acknowledging your spiritual defect. I am broken and I want to come to my God, my creator, as I am so that he can do the work. I just need to become willing, entirely ready for him to remove any and all things that's going to prevent me from being of service to him and also from to stop me from achieving my destiny and my God-given purpose. Okay, so let's dissect this baby again. So it says here, right? Steps 4 and 5 were difficult but worthwhile. Now I was stuck on step 6, and in despair, I picked up the big book and I read this passage. And so this gentleman, and many of us do this, right? At the moment that he was stuck, have you ever been stuck? Have you ever been stuck? Not just physically, mentally, but spiritually stuck. Particularly if you're in Alcoholics Anonymous and you no longer use chemicals or alcohol or other substances to escape from reality. Now, that means that you are of right mind in terms of you're not having any mood altering chemicals, right? And so this young man basically said, you know, I'm in recovery. I did step 4 and I did step 5, but when it came to step 6, entirely ready. Some of these defects I like. Some of these defects are a coping mechanism. Some of these character defects are used as defenses, right? And so he admitted, and I can understand, I'm stuck. And at that moment, he goes outside after recognizing he is stuck. And that's when the student, in my opinion, becomes ready and the teacher will appear. Now, this particular example that he used or reality that he used, after he got stuck, he went outside and he looked up in the sky and he saw this eagle bird, okay? And so as he watched the bird swoop, soar, and everything, in other words, right, the bird was flowing, right? He was flowing with and not against the current, right? And so he says, I was outside praying for willingness when I raised my eyes and saw a huge bird rising in the sky. I watched it suddenly give itself up to the powerful air currents of the mountains. He said, I watched it suddenly give itself up to the powerful air currents of the mountain. And so many of us see how when birds are flapping, right? They're flapping, and they're flapping in the direction of the current, right? And then sometimes you'll see somebody get lost and they go back the other way and they flapping real hard until they make a turn and get with the group. And now his flaps can cease because now he is being carried by the current. All right. And so I can understand when he says, I was stuck about step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Now, what makes you think that God wants to use a rotten potato, a rotten egg, right? An egg that has blood in it, an egg that has a crack in it, eggs. You know what I'm saying? And so my analogy is, if God, who created me, wants to use me, then I have to be entirely ready for him to remove any and all things that's going to prevent me from being of service to him, and therefore of service to others. We are born to serve, okay? And so I understand this is my favorite step. Step 6. I raise my hand, this one hand, listen, whatever it takes, whatever you need to remove, right? That anything that's going to prevent me from being of service to you, I am entirely ready. I don't know how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, but I am willing. And so he asked for willingness to be entirely ready, to have God, our creator, remove any and all character defects, right? Then he goes on to say, right, this bird was swept along, swooping and soaring. The bird did things seemingly impossible for mortal birds to do. I love that, because in our literature and in the Bible, right, anything and everything is possible with God, right? And so there's another saying that we are ordinary creatures doing extraordinary things. And that's because someone, our higher power, our God, is behind that extraordinary thing. Okay. And so he goes on to say, right, it was an inspiring example of a fellow creature letting go to a power greater than himself. Do you know? And I have to close. I got to go to my meeting. Well, we'll see. Do you know that for me, when I was underneath that parked car 34 plus years ago, 3 o'clock in the morning in the streets of Philadelphia, getting high and doing all kind of sexual favors with my own stepson, we were both suffering from addiction and obviously some form of mental illness in order to engage in such horrific acts with one another. Yes, dogs and cats get underneath cars, right? And so when I placed myself underneath that parked car, it was out of fear that my stepson would continue to do harm to me, right? And possibly kill me. I don't know. When we're under influence, we transform. So I know about robbing dead bodies, stepping over dead bodies, seeing dead bodies stacked in the basement. You know, the drug dealer used the teenagers as an example. Even as a prostitute, I had an abortion. I consider that murder, right? And so placing myself underneath that parked car was out of fear. But it also gave me the opportunity, unknowingly to me at that time, to cry out to a God that I didn't know, who I heard about and was taught he was a punishing God, to make the decision of taking me out this life now or showing me a better way, right? And so now I realize that I was entirely ready. I was entirely ready and willing. And this is without knowledge of the 6th step, right? But I was willing and entirely ready for God to do with me as he saw fit. Take me out or show me a better way. Voila. 34 plus years later, being, right, introduced to and utilizing spiritual tools, resources, and principles, and experiencing an unlimited amount of spiritual breakthroughs. So we have a saying in our AA fellowship, let go and let God. And you need to realize that the serenity prayer will help you do that. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so he shares that at the end of this reading, right? Where he says, right, I must search out and be ready for the currents. And that's where prayer and meditation help. Because I am of myself nothing, I ask God to grant me the knowledge of his will and the power and courage to carry it out just for today. You see what I'm saying? So the serenity prayer helps with people too. God, grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, courage to change the person that I can, change the people that I can, and the courage to know that that person is me. And so when I choose to use that serenity prayer, when life deals me any and all kinds of hands, I've ultimately learned that God is the dealer. And so I learned to apply spiritual principles, tools, and resources to all earthly matters. And most times I need to recognize by using the serenity prayer for things and or for people that I need to accept things I can't change. But I also need to ask for courage to change the things that I can. And so if step 6 says, I need willingness to be entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Wouldn't you want to be rid of any and all things that life and its domestication, as the Ruiz family talked about in the 5 agreements? Don't you want to know who you really are and what you were created to be and become? Don't you want to know what your God-given destiny is? Huh? Then that means you have to be entirely ready to have this God remove all your defects of character, right? And it says it separates the men from the boys, the girls from the women. And so I thank God that I've been able, one day at a time, to seek God's will for my life, because I often look at where my will got me, underneath that parked car. But in hindsight, that's exactly where I was destined to be. Oh, yes. There was a quote my brother sent me. He said, anything that has happened to you, is happening to you, and will happen to you has been waiting for you. So it was God's opportunity for me to be in this, what I perceive as a humiliating, right, position underneath a parked car. And I can imagine him saying, okay, I got you just where I need you. That was my one and only knee bowing experience. And so what proved to be humiliating to me was spiritually humbling in God's eyes. See what I mean? And so, all right, it's time for me to go. Let me end by saying, I love you. I love you. I love you. And I also want you to sign up for my master class, right? Which is Thursday, June the 20th from 7 to 8:30. It's going to be in person and on Zoom. And then Saturday, June the 22nd from 10 to 11:30. I'm going to be diving into, I'm so tired of being broken and broke. And guess what contributed to our brokenness and being broke? Our character defects. Are you entirely ready to have God remove any and all things that stands in the way of you being of service to him? Aren't you ready? Aren't you entirely willing to have that done? Well, come to my masterclass and I'll show you what the benefits are of doing so. In the meantime, be of service to someone else. And if it's God's will that we are reunited tomorrow, I'll be here. And I hope you will be too. But it's only if it's God's will. I love you. You love me. We are one big old family with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? Ooh. Miss Cuckoo Pop signing off. Love you. Be blessed. Lord, I love you. I love you. I love you all day.